All right. Oh my God, I really got to do a little self check-in before I start doing these videos. So, this is Christmas week, you could say. Christmas was over a couple days ago, and I'm like expecting my daughter any minute. 17, last year of high school, already got her future thought out. Amazing. Anyway, before she comes over, though, I just came from the coffee shop. Well, okay, now you know better. You know better. You know better. Scratching up my chairs. That's Sunday, the cat, like ice cream Sunday. So my experience was hanging out at the coffee shop, engaging in some, you could say, community conversation. Okay. You know, just because I'm on the phone, you're doing that, right? Because you know I'm on the phone, don't you? Yeah, I don't hit my cat, do you? Okay, so the community conversation that I was engaging. By the way, this is mikesmastermind.com if you don't know me. I'm a pseudo-philosopher, so I'm a pseudo-philosopher talking about ultra being, states of ultra being in which we are conscious and recognizing our own. Okay, now the cat just scratched my butt. Okay. I'm unpacking Christmas stuff here. Oh, this is a good song. I got to put it up. Okay, I'm wondering if I'm going to even get through this talk, but we gotta listen to some good music. I just got back from the coffee shop. Everyone. All right, rather than naming bands and going through my playlist for the new year. So the conversation was talking about people wanting their goals for the new year, and I'm all about that. NewYearSuccess.com. NewYearWebinar.com, NewYearWebinars.com. Okay, that's a whole side story unto itself. The observation was to how some people sort of excuse their own reality. So there's a projection of this promised future of a new year. This is how I want to be. This is what I want to achieve, like getting my hair done, or some kind of new look that would be presentable and acceptable. So the idea is that we all kind of project ourselves into something that we want. So I actually related to the XP, which is kind of the experience of achieving this ideal realization. So whatever that would be for your goals, or this accomplishment, or this new self-identity or consciousness, whatever it would be. So for me, I'm exploring these ideas that I describe as ultra being. Where's my coffee? Oh, there it is. This is proof I just came from the coffee shop. I was there for a couple hours, but my battery was running out because I was talking more than writing, although I did do some writing on egoism.com. Ego is this projected identity that we have. It's the selfie of the mind. I don't know why. Throughout history, it's never been named, so I had to call it something. I labeled it the Igo, because I go in my imagination. So igoresearch.com, I-G-O. Research.com is the book proposal. If you are an agent, contact me because this is a quantum bestseller. Now, speaking of this XP experience of like, if I could achieve the ideal and I'd be published, well, that would be the expression of this, which I'm talking about. So in the conversation, people are talking about their goals and they're fantasizing this ideal self, this expression of what is accomplished and who this person is in the new year. So do you follow along on this little tangent here? So it would be for one person talking about what I could relate to, they wanted to reestablish some old contacts that were valuable, not so much connections in business, but friendships and people they miss. But there was the excuse, I couldn't do that because, well, taking consideration, you could be disturbing somebody, like saying hello, get out of here, don't ever contact me before, whatever that would be. So people are acting out their expressions of what is going to counter their goal. And that could be constructive in the way of thinking of contingency ideas, different ways to approach and plot or maneuver. And I'm not talking about manipulating, I'm talking about, hey, if you get one reaction, maybe your approach wasn't quite right. So maybe you want to check in this, what I call the tie principle. Is this a good time? Is this of interest to you? And can we engage on this level? Is the energy there? And if not, either you readapt or you retreat and maybe you reapproach it another time, right? So what I found that kept coming up was the excuse to why people weren't going to achieve their goals. So it's like New Year resolutions that were already being broken. So they weren't quite committed to. So a lot of New Year resolutions, that's the reason why there might have been a 2 or 3 week gym membership and they did work out once or twice, half-assed heartedly, but yet nothing changed. So yeah, we could have a whole conversation about what is going to change, but to me, the change is the who I am and the presentation of this dynamic of So it's an acting as if principle. Some people are just acting out. So what I just kind of observe and what I'm coming to confront against all the time is like, if we're looking for a paradigm shift, we're looking for outside factors to bring into something that, to me, that's going to allow me the freedom that I really need to have first for myself. And for me, it's letting go of my own stories, right? What I'm expecting and hoping for you to do, how our situation will change. And so it's kind of like, well, yeah, I want to have a better life, right? And so if I think about my relationships and the goals that I have, things that I want to accomplish, those things are good. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem could be in me wanting to change you. Now, there could be a dynamic that's present for someone that's dealing with an addiction or a bad habit or something that's really working counter to them. The thing that I'm coming across, and this is what I was sort of, you could say, up against in my own reasoning and rationale while I was at the coffee shop, was that people really aren't willing to change. They want something, but whether it's the risk involved, the uncertainty of me dealing with you, or the fantasy of like, well, gee, it'd be great if it worked out, but what if it doesn't? That inhibits us. That fear that stops us from creating the sort of momentum or the dynamic between us that would create the connectivity, right? The conduit that actually would bring in the change. And I'm talking about a really sustainable quality of change that affects not only just the you and I dynamic, but informs our community, the level of consciousness that we have in our conversations. Because all I really find, and I find this constantly right now, even going into the new year, relating to people posting, whether it's on LinkedIn or Facebook, and I have to follow some of this because I'm needing to track it for the research I'm doing, and I'm posting in relationship to coaches and people who are community thought leaders, you could say, to try to reach out. And I'm not even sure of my own, premise at times, because it's sort of like, who am I to say any of this stuff? Like a guy came up with the I-go. Who the heck does he think he is? The I-go. So I'm up against it myself. But the expression in relationship to who we are in the dynamic of who we are and having achieved the goals is obviously different than who we are now. And I talked about this 30 years ago. If you go on newyearsuccess.com, you can see a video of me presenting myself back to 1995, exactly 30 years ago, during a New Year's presentation. And it's fascinating because I'm talking about mid-decade, which we are right now, and what's going to be needed to change for the upcoming millennium, which at that time was 5 years away. So the end of this decade is 5 years away. Are we really going to be any different? A lot of us have a lot of fear because we know it's coming, right? Some of us are excited about the new political administration coming in. Other people are like, holy cow, what's going to happen, right? It's uncertainty or fear, right? So for the little things, and I'm talking about the little things here of like you and I being able to relate on some level that breaks through whatever inhibited us before or prevented us because we weren't mature, we didn't understand it, we just didn't want it or couldn't deal with it, whatever it would be. If we really want to seek change, it has to begin here, right? And how I'm presenting myself into this dynamic of wanting a desirable, sustainable future or change within my relationships, the dynamics of how I, make my I-go present, right? So to become consciously aware, what I talk about is my TWA, the flight I take every day is, what is it that I'm thinking? So I can catch myself in those thoughts, particularly in the words, right? TWA, thoughts, words, and actions, the way I'm acting and showing up. Having some conscious dimension, or what Dr. David Job would call I awareness. You could have awareness of something, but I awareness doesn't mean that we have to meditate on our navel the whole day. It's just sort of having some conscious awareness of what is my TWA, what am I thinking? What am I projecting out there and through my words and even saying to myself over and over, my ID is my internal dialogue, ID, internal dialogue. If I'm not conscious of that, then what kind of imposition am I creating, not only in my own life, but in yours? And I'm not meaning to do that. But I want change. We all do, right? So what is the way that we can come about it to where we can experience what this dynamic is without making the excuse of why it can't occur? It's serious, folks, because if we really are serious about having a desirable, sustainable future, something that we can really be proud of and say, hey, I was a part of this change because you made the decision, the commitment, it's becoming aware. And the old stinking thinking can no longer rule our lives. It's ruling and ruining. God, think about, the where we could have been. I don't want to be shoulda, coulda, woulda, because it's sort of like disastrous. It's sort of like think about, oh my God, I'm stuck in my past. The past has informed my present. There's no question about it. I've been gifted to such a weird way because to me, and many of you would share this, it's a painful past, right? And yet the life lesson, sort of like, we're different now because of it. So how can we make our future better? How can we step forward into something that's really desirable in the way that, and I think like I see my eyes going up. It's like, ooh, he's getting it. It's a synesthesia, because what happening is it's integrated in all levels for you and some people that I know, like you. And I just learned this recently by watching something about EQ, emotional intelligence, from the guy who invented the word, about oscillations and what that is. I've never been able to research it, but the guy he explains about oscillations is how we can really manage ourselves in an experience because we're so much a part of it. And there are some people who I've been around, like when we're in an experience, like they're really in the experience. And so much you can feel it in their dynamic, relating to a date back with when I was in college, watching a dance performance, and the date I was with was like, I don't know if they were aware of it, but they were like, every move anticipating, they were like so in the experience. It was like, wow, that's oscillation. Someone who's got their oscillators going can really recognize the experience and sort of be a part of it. And so in that way, we can really, really fully accentuate our experience of the experience. And that's what I was writing about this morning at the coffee shop while engaging in this measure of conversation. So who we are in the experience, if we can recognize our own shortcomings in the way that we're willing to extend ourselves to a certain degree, but then we make excuses to why we don't complete, why we're inhibited, and they could be valid reasonings, right? And so if things are thought through, there is a certain intelligence here that then is going to allow, this is the IQ, right? And then with the EQ, the emotional intelligence, that marriage produces what I am writing about, which is the XQ. It's my own equation that's made up, but it's the expression. I think, with Musk taking over Twitter and X, I think I got to change that, but I had this idea before that happened. That the XQ is the expression of the whole brainness that's allowing now full consideration. It's very integrated, very allowing. At the same time, though, it's very considerate. So how do we express this dynamic of the XP that's going to have this breakthrough? I'm talking about a breakthrough. So the solution is at hand, it's experienced, and now it's realized. So problem solved. It's whatever was is the past, it's over. And what that means for you, I don't know, because we're not talking about it. To me, a conscious community conversation would be about our social issues, our integration of our identities and how we can mesh into really a world that's going to recognize each of us just for, I don't know, how we're, what's present. The gift is our present moment, right? So how are we right now? And if our filtering is divisive, and I'm talking about controlled, or at least influenced by media, I write about dashism, which is really manipulation behind the scenes of our media and inputs and the way that we're conditioned to think, there's no chance for us because we're allowing other inputs to control our TWA, our thoughts, the words we're using, and the way we're acting. We're better than this. We are better than this. So for those of us that choose to want to awaken, let's inform a new community that's going to allow us to break through, to wake up. It's not a bad word, because they don't want you to. So now they label things for you. They define words and I do this myself, right? I'm defining things. And yet I'm not looking at inhibitors. Well, I am looking at the inhibitors so we can break through them, but I'm not looking to make new ones. I did that enough in my past, right? So now it's sort of like the awakening process. What it is, how are we new in the new year that's going to make everything different? Not hoping for outside change, the illusion of what's hoped for out there, the ship to come in, win the lottery. Good luck. What I'm saying is that we can make it happen among ourselves if we're willing to. We have to step up. My work on lovingconversations.com, which is so much needing your input, because it can't happen without you. I mean, it's like, how can it? It's a realization and it's integrity. Like, how do we come from our heart so that all walls, all barriers crumble and we see each other for real? Can we do that without stories attached to it? It's challenging, isn't it? Because everything is so labeled and conditioned and socialized and confined to where we define it. And yet there's a broader horizon, a bigger picture. What we know is true is our conduit, our true connection to each other. It's humanity. It's caring. It's love. So loving conversations in this dimension is a breakthrough model because it take into consideration. People go into their stories. You allow them to have their experience, I suppose. And yet there is the opportunity to break free. And it's just simply ultra being present. It's really an emptiness. It's being in a gap that's so profound. It's allowing in its nature, and yet the chains just fall off. They just dissolve. There's no blame. There's no accusation. There's no anger. There's no VLOG, vanity, anger, lust, attachment, and greed. It's just observation. There could be things that come in, right? Sales, pictures in the mind that do have its identification and labeling. We just learn to let it go and appreciate the here and now, that this is the love that we have between us. And that's all that matters. And now we can fairly address the social issues and the concerns that we have to make sure that things work out for the best of the good of the whole. These are considerations. CommunityConversations.com is my graduate project dissertation. It needs reworking. It needs a new revamping, and many people are doing it. I'm just someone who observed it and wrote about it. I'm a social scientist. Loving conversations is the breakthrough model that's going to allow us to be truly who we are with each other. All right. Happy New Year to those of you who are watching at this time. I would love to get your feedback on this stuff. Mike'sMastermind.com.